everybody, I'm Elizabeth Hines from ourpaleofamily.com, and it's summer and I have a special treat for you today. So we're going to make my paleo chocolate chip cookies. And now I realize that Paleolithic man probably does not eat chocolate chip cookies, but we call them paleo because we're not using dairy, we're not using soy, we're not using grains, we're not using ultra refined sugars, so that's how they fit in that paleo category. And these fit in our paleo lifestyle because what is life without an occasional treat? And I happen to be making these as we get ready to embark on a camping trip, and we're going to be doing lots of hiking, so it's actually a great treat and a pretty pure way to get some good calories that we're going to need with all that work. So it's not a complicated recipe, but I just thought it would be fun to show you how we make something as simple as a chocolate chip cookie with these more natural and better tasting ingredients. So we do have several different sugars, and that's just because it gets the texture and the flavor that I think is best. So we need 1/4 cup of raw honey, 1/4 cup of maple syrup, and you know, you want 1/2 cup total of those. So if you only have one, if you only have honey, or if you only have maple syrup, that's fine. Just use what you have. I don't personally like the flavor of honey, but I like the texture that it gives to baked goods, so that's why I tend to do it half and half with maple syrup. So I'm putting these in my bowl. And then I need 1/2 cup of dates, and y'all can see there's a lot of stuff here. So these are the medjool dates. They are non-GMO, which is nice. And these do have pits, but the pits are really easy to take out. You just sort of squeeze it and out they come. And even if you buy pitted dates, occasionally you'll find one with a pit in it, so you should just give it a little squeeze and make sure to get that out. And sometimes you can find nice fresh dates that are soft like these, and other times they are drier. So you're going to want to combat that dryness by heating them. And I'm just going to show you how to do it, because even with them soft, I want them to be heated a little bit so that I can totally blend them up. The dates are adding, of course, flavor and sweetness and a chewiness. I like a cookie that is a combination of, that one looks a little funky, I'm not going to use that one. A combination of like chewy in the middle but crispy on the outside. That's the kind of cookie I like. And dates really help us get that texture, achieve that texture. So, but you don't want chunks of dates. You don't want it to be like an oatmeal cookie, or where you have like a chunk of raisin. You don't want a chunk of date. You want them blended up really well. So I have 1/2 cup, and you saw me just press them down, and I'm going to just kind of break them apart as I put them in here. And I'm going to put this whole bowl in the microwave for just about 20 seconds. Okay, so that's 20 seconds in the microwave. You could also just boil this on the stove. That's what I used to do, but I'm just trying to be fast. So I'm using a hand mixer. You don't even need to use a mixer for this recipe, but it just so happens that I'm in a little bit of a hurry, and I already worked out my arms today, so my muscles are sore. So I'm going to go kind of the lazy fast way and use my hand mixer. And you could also use a blender. You could use an immersion blender. The whole point here is to get those dates really chopped up. You can lay the dates out on a cutting board and you can chop them that way, but they're so sticky. They're constantly sticking to the knife, and it's just kind of a pain. So I like to mix my sugars together and then blend them up. So I'm just going slowly to kind of get it started, then I'll increase the speed here. As you add some dry ingredients, it'll add to the friction of this mixing process. So if you have a piece or two that aren't blending up real well, it's okay. Just wait. They'll mix up. But do your best to get them kind of blended at this point. Okay, so we got about a minute of mixing there. I'm documenting this for the blog, for writing it up. So I'm going to be taking some photographs as we go. Okay, the next thing I want to add in is palm shortening. I love palm shortening for baking. Number one is dairy free. And number two, it just makes a really nice texture. You can buy palm shortening at most grocery stores. However, I do really like Tropical Traditions. Theirs is sustainably sourced. It is very good quality, and I find that it works the best in my baked goods. And if I'm going to go to the expense and the effort to make something homemade like this, I want it to be really good in the end. So I find that Tropical Traditions does a great job. They're not paying me to say that. It's just what I use. You have to order directly from their website. I don't believe they sell through anybody else. But if you go to their website, you can sign up, and they'll notify you when they have sales. And they periodically will have the palm shortening on sale. And of course, as a frugal lady, that is when I buy it. Okay, so we added 2/3 of a cup of palm shortening. And now I need a teaspoon and a half, which is the same thing as a half a tablespoon of vanilla extract. Use really good quality vanilla if you can. And then I need an egg yolk. So, sorry, white, but we don't need you for this recipe. So I used to sell these cookies. So I have my recipe, set to be a very large batch. So in cutting it down, I really didn't need a full egg. So we'll just use the yolk. That's the yummiest part anyway. So we're kind of using a basic baking method here where we mix all the liquid or liquidy sort of ingredients, and then we'll add in our dry ingredients. Let me snap a picture of it at this stage. It's nice and fluffy. Okay, I have my palm shortening, my dates, my maple syrup, honey, vanilla, and egg. And now we're just down to our dry ingredients. So we'll start with a cup and a half of almond flour. This is my favorite almond flour, Welby's, ultra fine. And you can buy directly from Welby's. Or here's my secret, you can buy it from Amazon, and it's the same price. So if you're an Amazon Prime member, you can get free shipping. Where I live, this comes next day, so I can realize at night that I'm running out and need to order more and place the order, and it will be on my porch in the morning. So I love that. It's so thankful that they are selling through Amazon now. Okay, so a half a cup. I've already used my half cup measuring cup, and so it's dirty. So I'm going to do 2 1/4 cups of arrowroot. So I'm giving you all my secrets. Like I said, I used to sell these cookies, but when I went back to school, I'm studying functional medicine health coaching right now. When I went back to school in February, I just knew that that was not something I had time for in my life. So I'm not selling the cookies anymore. And also, you know what? I never made cookies with my kids anymore. So turning something I loved into a business, it just didn't work really well in the long run for me. And I forgot why I'm telling you that. I have no idea. I had a purpose. I'll think of it in a second. Okay, so I put in a half of a cup of arrowroot. Oh. I was telling you my secrets. I can tell you my secrets now because I'm not selling these anymore. So I need a half a teaspoon of baking soda and 3/4 of a teaspoon of sea salt. So the palm shortening from Tropical Traditions is one of my secrets that really makes nice baked goods. And one of my other secrets is this combination of almond flour and arrowroot. It really makes for nice nicely textured baked goods, almost always. Sometimes if that's all my dry, the almond flour, the arrowroot, the baking soda, and the salt. Sometimes if it's a recipe that is particularly wet, like banana bread, for example, I might need to add a tablespoon or two of coconut flour, something like that, just to help combat the extreme wetness without adding tons and tons of almond flour. Because one, that's expensive, and really using the different flours improves the texture. But in this case, we can be simple and just use the almond and the arrowroot. So I'm just mixing this, just like you would do any cookie batter. You can use your stand mixer if you want, or like I said, you certainly can mix this by hand. If you're going to mix it by hand, I would use a blender or a mini food processor, something like that, to get your dates and honey and maple syrup blended up really well, because it's just going to, it would be a lot of effort to do that by hand. So if you have a tool, use your tool for that part of the process. All right, let me scrape down the edges of my bowl real quick. If you had very dry dates and you needed to heat that date honey maple syrup mixture for a long time, this would be very hot right now, and you could not add your chocolate chips. But because mine is not hot, I'm looking at the temperature I need my oven, 325. Because I had nice fresh dates and I did not need to heat it very long to get those nice and soft, my mixture is not hot and I can move right ahead. Now, if you want your cookies to be kind of thicker, fatter, I would chill the dough for sure. If you like a flatter cookie, you can go ahead and bake them when they're room temperature. Because if they're room temperature, they're going to spread out more. But that's what I want. That's what will let me have the crispy edges and the soft interior. These are my favorite chocolate chips. They're Enjoy Life. I like the mini ones. They have large chips. They have chunks. But the mini ones have, you get a little bit of chocolate in each bite, which I like that better. These are a nice rich, I think it's something like 70% cocoa. There is cane sugar in them, but there's no soy. A lot of commercial chocolates have soy lecithin, so these are soy-free, which is nice. So I was a little late in turning my oven on, so we need that to get up to temperature. So we're all mixed now. I'm going to show you how easy that was. And this will be so fun to do with your kids. It's really just like any other chocolate chip cookie recipe. You're just using slightly different ingredients. We didn't have to jump through any hoops or do anything really weird to make these with safe ingredients. And let me tell you, so I told you I used to sell these cookies. So the store that carried them, you know, they would order a dozen or 2 dozen or whatever, and my recipe might make 15. So there were always a couple extra hanging around, and if there was nobody here, like it seemed to fall, they would place an order when the kids were at camp, or, you know, my husband was on a scout trip or something. And so if I didn't eat them, I would just package them and stick them in the freezer. Well, I was cleaning out the freezer a couple weeks ago, and there was a chocolate chip cookie in there, and I just could tell I had relatively big labels at first, and then when I went through all those, I ended up ordering smaller labels the second time around because the big labels covered up the whole cookie. So I knew this one had a big label. I was like, wow, that is an old cookie. It's been in the freezer for well over a year. And my son opened it up and he started to eat it, and he goes, mmm. And I couldn't tell if that was a, this is bad, or this is good. And he just looked at me and he said, Mom, I don't know how you managed to make such a good chocolate chip cookie without flour and all that other stuff. And I thought, you know, that's high praise from a 13-year-old boy. So these really are good cookies. Let me clean this up a little bit and then we'll dish them out. Okay, when I bake my cookies, I always line my trays. Okay, so this is a Silpat, this is a silicone mat. They fit perfectly in these half sheet pans. I linked to this on my website. Across the top there is a menu, and there's one that says ingredients and resources, and I've linked to these trays that I really like. They come with a cooling rack that fits inside. They're super cheap, available on Amazon or like a cooking supply store. Also the silicone mat. The problem with the silicone mat, you have to wash it at the end, but it is convenient because it fits right in there. Okay, so remember, I'm being lazy today, so I'm using parchment paper so that I can throw it away. So the parchment paper doesn't fit exactly, so you have to fit it in, which is not hard. Just kind of lay it in there, fold it, and then flip it over so you have a flat surface. Okay? Okay, another one of my indispensable kitchen tools that I really recommend you buy, especially if you're going to bake. I use it for all sorts of things. Pancakes, muffins, coarse cookies, making a crab cake or a salmon cake, something like that, are these dishers. I have 5 of them, all different sizes. So like I use this big one. This is perfect for a muffin or a pancake. And again, they're inexpensive. I link to them on my website. Sometimes they come with a number. I think this one might say a number on the inside, but my eyes can't read it. But this is the size I like. It's roughly, I would say, about 1.5 tablespoons to 2 tablespoons is the capacity. And it makes it really easy. I remember a long time ago, I mean, I've had these for a long time, and I was kind of famous for my molasses cookies. This was way before Paleo days. And people were always amazed that my cookies were exactly round and all the same size. Like that was some sort of magic trick. Like, you know, it's just this little tool thing that I have. So then just scoop them out. You could, if you wanted to, scoop them out and have them ready. Then you could put them in the fridge and chill them. So you could do it that way if you wanted more of, you know, like I said, this sort of puffy cookie. So we're just spacing them out. I usually do about a dozen of this size. I do about a dozen per tray. And if they run into each other a little bit, that doesn't hurt my feelings at all. Also, what works really well is, say you just want to make fresh cookies for your family. Okay, we really just need a dozen, so you just cook up a dozen. And then you would scoop out all the rest of your dough, excuse me, and pop the tray in the freezer. And once the cookie balls are frozen, then put them, I usually, when I package things for the freezer, I sort of triple wrap because I don't want anything to get that freezer taste. So wrap them up in plastic or parchment paper, and then foil, and then in a Ziploc bag, and label that clearly what it is. And then when you're ready to bake them, just get them out, set them on your tray, really just like 15 minutes. Oops, and they'll thaw enough, and bake them up until they're done. They'll have to bake for a few more minutes because you're starting from cold, but it's totally doable. And then you can have fresh cookies anytime you want. That's what we do when we go to the beach as a family for a week in the summer. My mom will make some cookies, I'll make some cookies, and we'll just make all dough. We actually don't take any baked cookies with us. We only take dough. And we have fresh cookies every day. You know, I'll be out at the beach with the kids in the morning, and my mom will get the cookies out and she'll bake them. We'll come in, we'll have fresh cookies at lunch. Okay, so going in the oven are amazing chocolate chip cookies. I'll show you the finished product in a minute. All right, and here we are, the perfect chocolate chip cookie. So these I left a little bit too long, but they're going to be extra crispy around the edges, which my husband actually loves. These are perfect in my opinion. We've got these perfect little circles. They're steaming hot. I would love to just pick one up and inhale it right now. But I'll show you the inside texture and everything when they're nice and cool. I prefer to bake these at 325. You could bake them at 350 and they will bake faster. But then you rush it, and I just don't feel like they bake as well. So just take your time, 325, about 20 minutes, and then you get these perfect chocolate chip cookies, which we will dig into in just a little bit. Okay, here we are with our finished and cooled cookies. I just want to show you, these, we have a little snap to them. Get these a little more done, and they have a nice crunch. I don't want to just break them all apart, but I'm doing Whole30, so I can't eat any. So I just want to show you, we have this lovely, crispy, but yet you can see there's some bend. This is the perfect chocolate chip cookie. I wish I could eat it. I cannot. They're beautiful. They taste great. Make these cookies. I hope you saw that they're easy. They're fun to get in the kitchen and make with your kids, or surprise them with a treat when they're at camp. Just a basic chocolate chip cookie, but we took out the wheat flour and the white sugar and all that yucky stuff and made a super delicious cookie. So I hope you enjoy this one, and I'll see you next time.